Hey, welcome back. This is the Poet is a Human with the Philosopher Dunamis on this week's episode number 54, Fight for Vision. Please be sure to hit that like button on your way in, and if you like us, consider subscribing to keep up with our episodes on YouTube and give us a follow on X.
Fightcast is here to empower individuals to live healthier, master finances, pursue dreams, and inspire others through self-awareness and global impact. As always, this is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and not financial advice. Izzy Human, how's your week been, man? How you doing?
It's been a busy week, man. It's been a very busy week. The holidays right around the corner. As I say every week, shout out to the team. We are preparing our festivities project, so I'm not going to say too much, but I will say Bing Wan Chong Chu. You take that how you want. Crazy stuff I just said there right now, but we're really excited to share our upcoming project with you guys, and definitely a lot of manual shifting this week for sure. Definitely getting to know these gears, definitely getting to know some turns and getting the feel for it, and driving the car with the radio off. You guys are just going to have to follow me with that one.
That's awesome. I think I saw a post about the new car. Tell us about that.
Yes. It is a 1989 S560 Mercedes. 17, I had an E350, and just kind of long story short, I've just grown to respect the old school cars, and I found this one, and it was in really, really good shape, and came from a good person, and came from a good location. Had a few things I wanted to upgrade. Now I've got it to our boy Seth. Shout out to Beer Bros LLC, mobile mechanic. If you guys ever need anything done, seriously, give him a holler. He's great. So I've got it over to them, and yeah, they got the car cover and they got the TLC going on. So yeah, I got my boys handling the business. So we're gonna lift her up a little bit. We've got a fuel delivery overhaul kit. The Germans designed this in a very cool, artsy, mechanical way. If you guys are into cars, if you know about it, then you know what I'm saying for sure. Putting a new shifter in there as well. Just want to do some of the standard things and just give her pizzazz back, and show them what that V8's all about on the road.
That's exciting, man. It's all the different things that come and change in our life. I'll just say right now for myself this week, it's been there's been a lot of shifting that's going on. I'm getting prepared for, like you said, the holidays. We've got Christmas coming up. I'm getting married right around the corner here, and really excited about that. And for those of you that listen and have been listening for a while and are wondering, wait a second here, wasn't it just, I don't know, a few months ago that he said he was just starting to date again? Yes, that's correct. And my fiance came right at the right time, and everything fell into place. And some people might say that it's soon, but everything happens for a reason, and I'm starting to see all of the things click together in the right way for this future, for this homestead. And man, I couldn't be more excited about what's going on this winter. So
Really excited for you, dude. And I don't think it's too soon to me, just because you've been doing all the right things, and you've just been taking those steps, dude. You haven't been skipping steps, and I think a lot of that too goes into just us showing up every week. This has definitely been the most consistent thing that I've done is showing up here every week to do this. And yeah, I feel like God recognizes that we've been putting in the work. The universe recognizes that we've been putting in the work. So it's what you attracted, bro. So it's what you deserve.
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
100%.
It's even when we started this out, I would say that I wasn't sure that we would be able to continue to do it as long as we've continued to do it. Success can be measured in a lot of different ways. I think for me, the success has been that we've been as consistent with it as we have been. And for for all of the things that we're going to talk about tonight, when I hear the word vision and fight for vision, I think about how even what I thought this podcast was going to be has changed, over the last year, and what what I expect to get out of it, and as well as the idea of having a job, and what my job and my career is about, and my future. All of those things, they've my reality has completely shifted, here in the last few years, and so my vision has completely changed from what it was just a few years ago. And but I want to start by asking you, Izzy, like that's a little bit of maybe what it means to me, but what does this topic mean to you tonight? And how has your vision changed maybe in the last 5 years?
Man, so many things, and I will do my best to not stray the path too far here and get too esoteric. But I will say that my vision has evolved a lot. I really genuinely felt in my blood that if I wasn't gonna make this music all the way, that I was just gonna not be successful in anything else. And meaning I wasn't allowing myself to be good at other things. I wasn't allowing myself to complete other tasks and be focused on other things and really look into the business side, which has been much more under a microscope now. Um, but outside of even the music and the vision overall is how do I moment by moment continue to kind of look past the things that distract me, right? You know, when you're watching the TV for a little too long, or when you're scrolling on your social media a little too long, like how do you know, look past that and send that message to yourself and say, "Hey, let's get back to it. Let's lock in." And really seeing that process mechanically in your brain, which may seem a little odd, but I don't think so. I think that it's been a big journey this year for me in that regard, and just really having my emotions at a steadfast, man, and not being impulsive, right? And patience is it's a virtue for sure, and not that I felt like it was hard to be patient. I think it was just more of the the aspect of reciprocation, you know So,
Mhm.
it's grace and all those things, man, because none of us are perfect, and there's just so many aspects of myself that I had to pick apart and kind of put it back together, or polish it, look at it, redefine, and yeah. So overall, just the is a human brand of myself and just me as a person, it's been a journey of rebranding, man. So I was talking with Shaggy about this, and now that we've been able to go through these growing pains as individuals and get more of a gauge of our resilience, and see that in a 12-month. And now, how can we come together as a team, make it shake, make it rumble together? When we move as one foot, when we move with one hand, when we move together, with our brains all in one central location. So I'm very optimistic, man. Um, but ascending has been painful. It's been very painful, and again, just the vision of you know shedding your skin. Just kind of like new skin, and just the regeneration of like your flesh, and kind of the strengthening of your bones, like all of that to me in my vision, man. And knowing that I'm healthy, feeling that in my bones, right? Feeling healthy in my bones, feeling that mentally, but also really not containing being Mad Hatter all the time, right?
Mhm.
um, which can be a constant sometimes, but I don't mean that in like a cuckoo way. But it's just more of
You talking about like
sometimes
when you're
you just
talking
got
to when you're talking to normies?
talking to the shoebies, talking to the Shoobies. You go out to the Syndicate, man, and that's a restaurant here in Bellefontaine, and you get to talking like this, and they're like, "What?" Oh my gosh! And then you're like, "My bad, dude. I was talking to one of my homies, bro." But
Yeah.
yeah, in short, and I hope that I answered your question. I know kind of rounded it a little bit, but it's been very internal to kind of sum it up there.
Yeah, you definitely answered the question, and I think this is an interesting conversation for me tonight. Everybody is viewing this matrix, this game, this simulation that we're in through their own experiences, through their own ego, their own lens, and that lens is always going to cloud your experience. So the vision always has to come through some kind of a lens. When you understand that, you have to be able to focus your vision through a lens, right? Just like you're looking, through a magnifying glass or anything. You can focus very intently on what it is you want to see. And one of the things that I think recently for me that I've struggled with is trying to combine the vision and the ideas between what I want to do with my life in the long term versus what I need to do with my life in the medium term and short term. And for those of you who know and again listen and follow, and for those of you who don't, I'm going to be homesteading. I will be working on a farm at some point in time, but that's going to take a lot of work to get there. And so there's no animals, there's no gardens, there's no, we're talking about raw, undeveloped land right now. And so, so I have a vision of what that's supposed to look like, but it's so far away from what it looks like right now. And the part that I struggle with now is, I'm basically living in an RV park, and not to put down RV parks, I think it's perfectly comfortable, but I'm living in an RV park, and I will be going to the land with a chainsaw on a regular basis to put in the sweat equity to get that land ready to do what it needs to do. Um, all of that seems very daunting for me, as you can probably imagine. So, and I don't, and I don't know even what I don't know. So it's like it's scary, it's foggy. My vision is very cloudy as far as what is supposed to happen next, you know. So that's where I've been struggling a bit lately with vision.
I feel that, man, and in that regard, as far as the short term, yeah, for sure. There's always going to be some kind of motion, and it's really being able to tune in and put that motion under a microscope again, and understand the reasoning of why you're going in that direction. There's already sequences that you can't see already, and how things work, and how parallel you are with that. It just really depends on how in tune you are with things like that. And I've been feeling that, just more personally, man. Just, growing, growing out of shoes and um, really seeing everything for what it is. I'm not a person to, just be, one place, for so long. I definitely feel that I can be, I don't want to say be everywhere at once, but, you know, be in the spots that I know I should be in, right? And have the means to do that. I mean, shoot,
Hmm.
dude. Millionaires, billionaires, real estate, houses, and vacation homes and stuff, and not even like that. Not even anything crazy, man. And that's my vision as well. My vision has changed in that regard too. I used to, measure a lot of things by material assets. For sure, I think maybe some of us do that kind of in the beginning, and maybe not. Um, because
Yeah.
honestly, the people that I've encountered now, they didn't think like that. So sure, but anyways, but now that I've lived in the country for so long and just have been able to respect the silence and respect the peace. You guys, I've talked about the meditation and the working out, like simplicity. Oh my gosh. And I think I've always wanted that in me anyway. I've always loved tiny homes and container homes, and what you're doing to me is like voila. So to me it's almost like I'm living vicariously through you, and then it's like on the other side of it too, it's like even when things don't necessarily happen to you specifically, it's just like you see it happen to like other people, you know what I mean? So it's like it happened to you. So it's like it happened to me. So it's like an energy transfer kind of thing. You obviously put in the work, but I think that that helps when you're building stuff, like like when you're in a big music collective and you've got everybody that's rooting each other on and encouraging each other to try new things, and then they go off by themselves and they're not afraid to drop the project. They just want to put it out there because they know that the people like, yeah, listen to their music.
Hmm.
All of that encouragement for sure versus being in an audience of people who are like, you're never gonna make it.
It's so crazy that just saying that phrase, "You're never gonna make it." It just reminds me so much, and I don't mean to get triggered or anything, but I just think about how much of us deal with traumas from our family, telling us that we can't make it, or you know, people with parents probably with good intentions, but nitpicking every last dream and idea to the ground to sort of force feed us into this safe existence. And I don't know, I've started to push so hard against that in my own life that you know I'm kind of finally at a point now where I'm sort of scared again, which will be a good place to be. I don't actually think it's good to always know exactly what's going to happen next. I think that's kind of a boring way to live.
Hmm. Yeah,
But you
God's always got to keep it spicy.
yeah, and you're when you talk about not really needing to stay still, I wonder, have have you always if you've always grown up in Ohio, or have you ever moved around at all?
No, so I'm been born and raised in Ohio, specifically in Lima. I went to the same school district my entire childhood growing up, elementary all the way to high school. So that was like that for everybody. So we all watched each other grow up. And even when I went to college, I was only about an hour away. But throughout the course of my life, and even as a kid, I've been to Florida or been to Canada, and I lived in Kentucky for a little bit. Um, it's just different areas in Columbus. So I stayed in Columbus for about 8 years. So I got to adjust to the city a little bit, and so I've kind of got to see a lot of different aspects of it. Um, and just the music that I'm influenced by and the artists that I'm influenced by, and just them being in all of these different areas. And when you learn more about the music culture and the history behind it, and you know and then you start to develop as an artist, and you start to see uh, these areas where you feel like your brand would fit well, and then you start to learn a lot, and you start to get those visions of you being in those areas, and you start to do certain things, then you kind of get that itch. But my biggest thing is I don't want to be kind of I don't want to be the Papa was a Rolling Stone guy. That's not my vibe either. I always, wherever I go, I always want there to be that aspect of home, within me.
That's exactly kind of what I was trying to get to with the question, and that's perfect that you brought it around to that because yeah, I've always wondered about my life in particular too. I've just been kind of the opposite. My dad was Air Force, and so we moved around all the time. Um, and so I've lived in just all sorts of different places, and lived in Canada for a little while. But
Nice.
it's I think that my life has been and oftentimes about trying to find that home, finding that place
Hmm.
to put roots down, and it's it's actually really exciting now. This part of Texas that I'm in, it's a little new to me. It's a little outside of the city, and it definitely feels that way. But I've always been more nomadic. I've always just, wherever I lay my head is home, and never really felt like I had a place. And that's kind of, I guess, the main reason I was asking. But do you
Yeah.
think that your environment affects your vision in a strong way?
Yeah, it does, and sometimes it needs to be more bay, or it just needs to not. Like sometimes the wrong file cabinets open, the ones that need to be closed will open, because of that. Because there is a strong grounding in where I am from. There is a strong sense of what's the word, acceptance that I kind of internally have, that it's like kind of needs to like go away. Yeah. You don't do this for other people. You know what I mean? Like you do, but you don't. Like you're here to service the people. But again, self love, self discipline, all of that. But I was gonna go to a Facebook example. So I am very particular about what I put on Facebook. If you haven't noticed that, and there are people on my Facebook that will check me. There are a lot of people like just like older generation folks that kind of been in
Hmm.
the around for a while to say some silly things. They're like, "Come on, Isaiah, you're better than that." Like we hold you to a different kind of standard, and that does make a difference in the music as well, and not even in a way of restriction, but just to there's other words out there. You know what I mean? There's other ways to convey these messages that you want to express. Whether you're angry or you're sad or whatever, it doesn't mean that you have to throw the f-bomb around 1,000 times, or how do you do things tastefully, for sure. I feel like that's an expectation that I have for myself, and then I think in return, um, those are the people that I have around me that have that expectation of me, and they have that expectation of themselves as well. So I feel like the people around me hold themselves to high calibers. Um, that understand the definition of like sweat equity, and understand the grind, and understand that the residuals aren't always going to be there. They didn't they didn't have the silver platter, the gold platter. I think we were all privileged in certain ways. So to come together and be able to share those experiences, it's like we're kind of repairing the Pangea.
Hmm. Takes for us to repair the Pangea? Like, what is
Communication
it
is
that we can
the
do?
yeah,
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 communication, I think, is
communication,
absolutely key.
100%. Yeah, that's the number one reason why we have disagreements and arguments, is because of miscommunication, and we literally have language barriers, and we have people, yeah, just that don't speak those languages, and then you throw religion in there, then you throw politics in there, and then you throw class in there. And it just starts to layer, it starts to stack, and then the communication breaks even within those languages as well. So now you've really got more than the actual count of languages that they have in the world, just based off of all of those subtitles alone. And yeah, man, and the way the world unfortunately is built, it's built off of confusion. It's just the land of confusion, bro. Like,
Yeah, and there's enough of that. I feel like what's bothered me is the feeling of how much of that is intentional, you know, because I feel like left to our own devices, we would we would mostly be living productive, happy lives, on some farm somewhere, or whatever, doing what it is. But I I it's not for this episode, so I I
yeah,
definitely don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole of ranting on the elites of the world and all that stuff. But my my vision itself has been tainted by all of that, by all that have happened in the last 5 years, especially. The things in the news. The and I apologize for those of you listening, and understand that my voice is not 100% still yet, but I am recovering. I'm not sick. It's just a little cedar fever, I think. But for the most part, humans are kind to each other. When you find someone else in need, you know, I feel like there's so much good in this world, and if it were not for artificial, we talk about the money and inflation, just as a quick example. If your money was not slowly losing its value, and the groceries at the grocery store were not getting more and more expensive every single day, and you weren't fighting to survive, do you think that you would maybe act differently around
Mm.
other people? Do you think maybe you would treat them differently? Do you think maybe you would, be more friendly on the road? Would you, hold the door open for someone? There's all of these things that I think oftentimes boil right down to the money's broken. And if the money were not broken and people were not struggling to survive because of that, you know, I feel like this world has so much to offer. This world is so bountiful and generous. And we've just been sold this horrible bill of goods. And it took hundreds of years to swindle us. And it only happened because we forgot about the last time that it happened. Because this
Mm.
same swindle, I think, happens over and over again from what I'm learning in my research. It wasn't just people leaving the farms during the Industrial Revolution. I mean, the same thing happened in China. The same thing has happened in Japan. The same thing happened in Europe. I mean, and not just all at the same time either. I mean, we've had people get more and more disconnected from the land. And you can still go to some countries, and some countries are not like that. You can go to Mexico and Argentina, and they're very connected with farms and local produce. But here in the United States, in the land of ultra processed foods, there's just food is a commodity. We treat it like a commodity, and I don't know, man. The whole thing. This has all affected my vision so much. All of this and what happened with COVID, and what happened with the inflation of 2021 and 2022, and I see why the world is struggling. I see why people are struggling. It breaks my heart. And, I could sit around and complain about it, or I can go out and try and make some food myself and try and be a part of the solution.
Right. It makes you wonder how much of the vision of that person, like that vision, is how much of it is theirs, and versus how much of it's actually been fed to them. Then that gets blurred too.
Yes. Even yeah, even everything that I've thought and done, it's all still through the lens of my experience. So there's not another person that's going to have the same experience as me.
Right.
And this is the difficult thing about vision too, is I think you've touched on this a lot, and so I know that you understand this, Izzy. I I don't feel like a lot of regular everyday people understand how much every other person in the world is so unique in their experience. They're going through things that you couldn't possibly imagine that they're going through.
Mm. Right.
And we act and treat them as if we would know, or that their life's perfectly fine, or whatever. We all wear this mask, and we all treat each other based on each other's masks, and that's never the case. Everyone is going through something completely different. And so just knowing that, you have to understand that, like, your entire vision of the world is wrong. Everyone's is.
Mm.
Mine is. It's just we're looking at things through our own traumas and hurts and experiences and joys and everything else. It's just I was thinking about this today, and I'm going to land my plane right here. But there's basically I thought about the idea that a mother might not have her child try a certain kind of food or eat a certain kind of food because she doesn't like that certain kind of food. I don't mean to be controversial, and if I am, please fight me in the comments here, but I was thinking of the way we view the world, this lens. And if you're thinking about what you're going to feed your child, you're going to immediately take all the things out that that child probably doesn't like, right? But you didn't even realize the foods in your mind that you took out was the set of foods that you already took everything that you don't like out of. So, like, you're clearly, if you don't like squash, you're not going to feed your kid squash because you don't think they're going to like squash.
Right.
There's this prejudice, this built in, like, that's gross, so I'm not going to give it to my kid. I don't know how strongly correlated, if that's true. This is more of a hunch, a hypothesis. I would have to test this scientifically, to see if it's true. But I was just having that thought, that meditation the other day, that I've known a few females in my life, and oftentimes their kids don't like what they don't like magically. So
Yeah, and that makes sense to me because if you've not tried it or you've not had a good experience with it, it's not something that you're thinking about. You're gonna go for the things that you would initially eat, and then if they don't like that, then you're gonna go to Plan B.
exactly.
Or in the beginning, it's not even really what you're eating. They're kind of already, you're kind of already in the baby formula or you're breastfeeding. And then, you got to do the food thing, you know what I mean? So, like, then as they get older, that's when you start to kind of like start introducing those other things. And honestly, I'm not a father, I'm not a parent, so I don't really know, Dunamis, like, what age did you start introducing kind of like, I'm assuming probably like when they had teeth. But
It's
I'm
about
sure
a
mashed
about a
potatoes
year.
different. About
Yeah,
a
well,
year.
right about a year they start kind of getting into some solid foods.
Okay.
And again, if it's been a while for me since they've been that young, so fight me in the comments too, if I'm way off on that. But certain foods you want to wait a little bit longer on, but generally, I want to say it's probably around 10 months, 10, 11, 12 months. This would be just the very first solid foods, and then you want to take your time with certain things that could be allergic, and you only want to introduce foods um, one at a time. For me, the meditation was more about just how it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, if you don't view something as edible or feasible to eat, you're automatically going to cut that out. You're not going to feed it to your kids. But it's something that we do subconsciously. It's not something that we would actively think of. And so, to your point earlier, even just about how much of this stuff, like, we're all programming, we're this how much of this stuff even really is our own thoughts, or are we just acting out based on the way humans are supposed to act out? So anyways.
Well, yeah, the way that they think we're supposed to act out in response to these things, dude. That even goes down to when. So my best friend and my brother, Ryan, and he's got, and I will say, just a lot of my friends have great kids, so I will say that. But because I've known him for so long, we grew up together. Like, man, kids are, every kid's a kid, but it's like, man, they're so well behaved, and even how they respond to things. Like his oldest boy, you know, when he would fall initially, there wouldn't be this, oh no, like, did you hurt yourself? Because, and then that response causes him to cry and stuff like that. It was more like a, oop, and it's like, oh, okay, just get back up. And like how that actually changes their perspective and just how they're supposed to respond to certain things like that. Like,
Hmm.
just because you fall, you don't have to cry every time. Like, if it hurts for real, then we're gonna go ahead and go from there. But if you just trip while you were running and just one of those things, like, just get back up. You're good, buddy. No worries. Little scrape.
Yeah, that's
Or
the whole difference between, like, I've noticed that every parent is different, but you have
yeah.
definitely the helicopter parent style, where the child falls and just everything has to stop, and everybody's panicked. But what does that do to the child, right? And
Right.
and like you mentioned before, I'm used to. I mean, I grew up in the Gen X days, and I remember hearing "rub some dirt on it," So that's that's just it's all of those things, though they are very integral to our personality, our psychology as we grow up, right? The way that our parents treated us in that regard, as well as the way that we interact with other people around us. It's just consciousness is such a crazy thing, and all of those experiences affect the way that we see and act towards other people as adults, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And like now being 34 and just kind of being at this milestone a bit in my life to, reflect, and it being in the end of the year and that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, it's definitely a lot of things have shaped me, man. A lot of things have shaped me, but I've been able to also filter through those things and put them in my own words and really be the architect, of my design. And what I mean by that is because again, I'm faith based. Really be able to let my hand move the way that universe wants me to move. And really again submitting and letting go to that letting go to that higher power. One of my favorite artists, Jay Electronica, said, um, to be a king, you got to submit first to the master. You know what I mean? And I'm always going to be a student to this because this world was here before me and it'll be here long after me. The humility with that, and along with the confidence to love yourself and love your existence in this world, is in every second battle for people.
Amen. Yeah. It This time of year is really interesting for that kind of reflection too. Just I've I've said it here before, where I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, let's say, Christmas or Easter in terms of holidays, but New Year's and New Year's Eve and New Year's has always been very significant time for me to think about, reflect on the current year, as well as what to formulate a vision for what's going to happen in the year upcoming. And so I don't think it's a mistake that we're talking about vision at this time of year either, because I think it is really the time to take stock of really where you're at, where you're going, and I love New Year's Eve and New Year's as a time to just set things up for the next year. And I'm not talking about like New Year's resolutions and stuff like that, because I've never been good at that sort of stuff either. But it's more of a feeling, more of, what is it that I really want to do and get done? What is it that I really want to the direction I want to go? Big picture items for for me for 2026. I can already tell you, like, I've just already been dreaming about improving the land and making it ready for animals. And it's not going to probably be ready for animals till 2027. um, I mean, who knows? But that's really my focus, is like preparation. I'm looking at 2026 as a time of preparation. So what
Mhm.
are your thoughts on that, on New Year's?
I'm not a big fan of the resolutions so much, just because that's already stuff that we do on the daily anyway, with the whiteboards and the vision boards and the daily journals. So those things are already in motion. But I am one to again do the reflection and look back at those things and tighten things up. This is the fourth quarter to me, and my football ways or my football instinct is, this, it always seems to be a tied game, man, and it always seems to be a 2-minute drill. uh, so it's the
Hmm.
mentality that I take a lot with that. So just these times are really important to stay the course of action. And this is also a time where with all this holiday stuff, and it's just, for me, the holidays is about family gathering time, and how you celebrate it is how you celebrate it. I had traditional Christmases when I was a kid, and then I got older and had some growing pains because I had to adjust to not doing that, but I was also not doing it right. But I was also not doing it because it wasn't the same. So I didn't see the point. So kind of, I had to reinvent the holiday, for me, and the tradition. And ultimately, the tradition to me is just family. It's just being thankful, to just be here and people around you. You know,
Mhm.
it's just much more than the holiday itself, and how we celebrate it. These holidays are so capitalistic now. It's all
Yeah.
about Hallmark cards and the movies that come out after that, and or the shopping specials that come out after that. And it's like, cool, whatever, man. Again, I'm not knocking anybody. I'll be the first one to jump on the Silver Regime site and grab the stuff that's 50% off, but that's not what it's all about.
Yeah, there's definitely a capitalistic sort of bend to the holidays that just sort of comes along with, you know, living in a country that is profit focused. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of Christian traditions around, Christmas and Easter and this time of year, and many of that I'm just not as familiar as where it all comes from. I I tend to spend a lot more time just, I would with the Bible, but I do think that this time of year really at its core is about family. And so if nothing else, that's why I tend to not make a stink about it or anything like that, is because, it's it's a time for family to be together, and there's really nothing more beautiful than that. It's cold, it's winter, we're all surviving, we're all together, and it's it's uh it's a great time.
Yeah, it's a coming together, and we don't in this busy world that we live in. And again, this is all just off of the American vision, that we're supposed to work for a certain period of time to reach retirement, to get pension, to do it this way, and then there's a whole other thing of the American dream, because that's really not the American dream. But you know we just get so lost in the sauce with all of that on a daily basis, and it's just nice to just slow things down every once in a while. And I think we slow things down more in our minds, the more we can really, um, or be less impulsive, be more receptive and less reactive.
Yeah. The the thing that you were saying too earlier about the about living in the country and and all of that, I feel like there is, and we're talking about the commercialism and everything else, that just all of this, I feel like maybe some of our values, and when I say our, I am using the big we here. I'm talking about probably everyone. Our values have gotten just skewed, and we've put an emphasis on the wrong things, and we've allowed things that have no value to have too much value in our lives. And the good news is it's an easy thing to start to correct, but it takes recognition. If and more power to you, if all you can think about is buying your next big plastic Frosty the Snowman for your front yard, then that's happiness for you, and that's great. I'm not gonna bash on that. That's fine. But it's just a different set of values for me. I am just not wanting things anymore, I guess, if that makes a lot of sense.
I look forward to, I like the kind of cheesy stuff, sometimes the generic things, because it's the simple things in life, right? Being able to make a nice snowman, and when the snow's nice and white and fluffy, or I do kind of indulge in some of those things, just like a good dinner. Um, but again, it's the spending time together. It's more about that. And would I have fun making a snowman by myself? I'm sure I would. Would I have more fun with other people making a snowman? For sure. It's just sharing those moments, capturing the images, and the freedom to be able to do that too, man. And that's also like the biggest journey. Like when you put the collage together, it's all about the freedom to be able to do that. And uh, that's that's always been my mission. It's always been to have more time to do the things that I love and put myself in positions to be able to do that. And that whole work balance thing was always tough for me, man, because I was having to go in, and bro, like I'd go in at like 7:30. Sometimes you don't get done until 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then I would have to drive an hour home. So I really wasn't getting home until like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and
Hmm.
that was rough. And a lot of my relationships suffered because of that, because people weren't getting my time. And I was just trying to justify it. And truth be told, the paychecks were not justifying anything. It's just like, what are we doing here? What is this insanity right now? And eventually you just get to a point, dude, where you just gotta put your foot down. You're like, we're either jumping or we're gonna do this forever.
Yeah.
Uh,
Is that why? Do you think that's why that so many people have just stopped working? It's just because it's gotten to that. You have it. It just gets harder and harder and harder to even make end meet. Like there was a point. I'm going to kind of answer my question a little bit here with just saying that like there was a point when I was a courier that I sat down and did the math. I actually sat down and did the math on what, because I was using my own vehicle and
mhm.
I wasn't getting paid. It's not like it was a W-2 where they were taking taxes out and I was getting health insurance. It was, I was getting paid a check as a freelancer basically. And once you factor in oil changes and gas and wear and tear on the car and hours in the day, I mean, you're lucky if you're making minimum wage, and it's just crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's like when inflation and just the price of living, but I also got to give it to the people. I got to give it to. I really got to give it to this generation of like our content creators. This generation who said, I don't have to be an accounting executive. I can go viral on TikTok if I want to. I love that mentality, honestly. And COVID was a double-edged sword, because you saw small businesses close down because they weren't able to sustain. On the other end of it too, you saw a lot of people that were in the bigger businesses that were started working remote, and they kind of stayed remote. And I think there has been a shift in that. Like, I don't know what people really do in their free time, or if everybody has families, but I think I couldn't tell you if the quality of life has improved. Maybe maybe one way I could tell, I don't know if the quality of life is improved necessarily. I just know that social media is popping. People have time for the social media type stuff, and I feel like if people, and social media is also drawn a lot around work as well, because of the LinkedIn's and the Reddits, but you're always on, your phone or your computer, you have access to those things. But just in that sense, before, it wasn't like that, but technology was different then too. Um, so yeah, I think people got a taste of just being home a little bit more, and like I can spend time with my family, or and they were like, heck, I could even homeschool them if I want to. You know what I mean? Like, I
Hmm.
think that you're putting more decisions in people's hands, and you're pulling them less apart. Do they still have to work? Yeah, for sure, no worries. But can they now work at the luxury of their home and make sure that their kids get on the bus and make sure that they're good when they get off of the bus and have their meals prepared for them and do more of those things? Because we see the some of the kids that had the parents that were very well off, but they didn't spend time with them. And that's really what a kid needs the most in their life is, parents spend time with them and experience that. But there's no amount of money in the world that can buy that kind of happiness for a kid. It's them. It's you who they want. So I do see a shift in that. So I think maybe I answered my own question a little bit.
That's that's a good thing though. I mean, at least from that perspective, I think if people are making the choice and if they're able to sustain their own lives and find more happiness, even if it means less money, um, I think what that's part of that is the American dream, right? Is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so happiness for everyone isn't going to be more money. In my case, in the future, there will probably be some money, but it's definitely much more about health and wellness and a lot of those other things that we never put, I think, quite a big enough price tag on those things in the past. And so I really hope we start to put a bigger price tag on those things, on our happiness and peace and health.
Hmm. I hope to, with what I'm seeing on my timeline, with all of the food, and I'm really starting to see a shift in how people are looking at food and how more people are growing, and there's a lot more DIYs, and I love the Pinterest. I have boards. People are just out doing their mini homesteads and their small farms, and our boy Seth is doing that as well. He's got his chickens and he's expanding. His main thing is just having enough land to, run his business, but he's got different areas that he can set up in different departments. And again, you're starting to see that because people have more time to look at these things for what they are. I mean, container homes weren't really a thought, back then, but now people are like, um, houses are $500,000, and they were
Yeah.
originally $250,000. When you can buy a container home for, a brand new one with no dents in it for roughly around 10,000, 15,000 bucks. So if you stack that 30,000 into your own renovations, I mean, you're still, maybe a little over 100K, and that's like, okay, but you built it the way that you wanted to build it. You buy 5 acres of land, like you're really making out pretty good. But again, it's the work, it's the effort, and some people don't have time for all of that, right? Or they don't want to
Hmm.
do all of that, and the HOAs are better, and the house is already built, or they've already got pre-built designs for you, and all this other stuff. And again, it's like do what makes you happy at the end of the day. But what makes me happy to now is being away from people respectfully. I love you guys so much that I would like to be away from you, and just be able to be in peace and be able to walk naked in my backyard. It's the little things for me.
There you go.
I don't
Heck
think that
yeah,
you
man.
guys want to see me walk in my birthday suit. So, like, respectfully, that's why I say I want to be away.
Got to put them no trespassing signs up.
100%, dude. I want to be able to be free with my tomato plants and my cucumbers, no pun intended, and just everything.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I think we're about at the end of time, but this is I think talking about vision this week has been really good, really important, and I think we should continue along this next week. What do you think, Izzy?
I think it sounds like a plan to me.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much again, man. I know this week was actually tough. It was tough for me, and but we made it happen, and I'm so glad that I got a chance to talk to you again, brother.
Yeah, I know, man. It's all good, dude. We do it how we do it. Yeah, and I think every week always complements the topic very well.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. And hey, until next week, man. Never give up the fight.
Never give up the fight.
try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, your check is I'm chess, what's happening next, yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession, all in his possession. You got their attention, I'll leave an impression and take your redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression, You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions in the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off, I'ma break off from the weak minds. They can stay soft, you can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me.